Hey, what is Chambers of My Heart? What is that?
Hey guys, it's your humble host Rick here if you prefer. So I'm back with a small video, hopefully. Really not a whole lot going on my end. This is kind of more of an update slash, hey, how the heck you doing? So to start off, I finished watching the One Piece live action season 2, and technically the live action season 1. I actually held off on that one for a while because I was so scared they were going to mess up the Arlong Park arc. And suffice to say, I was still a little disappointed, and then I did enjoy the ending, so it was a mixed bag. Two of the scenes that I was really worried about because they had brought Arlong and his pirates, the Variati, and Arlong was really small, so I'm like, oh no, oh no. So I did not finish watching the One Piece live action season 1 for like a few years. I'm not even kidding because I was so scared what they did with the ending. So when season 2 dropped, or before it was getting ready to drop, I went through and I did finish the last couple of episodes. So the scene that they got right, which was very important to me, was when Nami started to stab her arm, like the tattoo of Arlong. So that was very intense. That was done right. And I'm like, yes, we got it. We got the first buildup of Luffy getting really angry because of what Nami's been through. Perfect. When it came to the second scene, though, that I was really worried about them messing up, it's kind of like it got glossed over. And I understand that they can only fit so much into an hour because they're trying to cover so many episodes in the span of an hour per episode. And I get that. However, the scene where Luffy and Arlong are fighting in his actual building, if you guys remember the animated one, Luffy was so enraged that he was literally throwing things out the window that was starting to destroy the building with that aspect. And that didn't happen during this fight because they started to build it up, and I'm like, okay. And then it just got to a point where Luffy started to stand in front of the charts, and Arlong was scared to hit him because at that point he was destroying all of Nami's work, or all of Arlong's progress, if you will. And Luffy brought the entire house down with that one move that he did in the animated version, but there wasn't that conversation where everything kind of went out the window. Like the desks are in the animated version, the desks are flying through the walls or flying out the window. It's shown that Nami is sitting there bawling because she's watching this prison that she's been in for so long get destroyed. And the live action kind of alluded to that with showing the chain in the corner. And I get that, but I still would have preferred, and it could have been a budget thing, I don't know. I still would have preferred to see Luffy getting angry and throwing pieces of furniture out the walls and whatnot. It was still good, but that I was kind of let down about that particular second build-up because it's like, oh, that was so crucial. To me, that was a monumental moment in the Arlong Park series. And I will say, I didn't realize that the character didn't even make an appearance. And again, this could have been another budget thing. Hachi was not even in the live action. I know there was a fishman who was named Hachi in the credits, but it wasn't Hachi. It was another one of the fishman crew. And Zoro gets into a fight, but Hachi has 8 swords, 8 arms, so that could have very well been a budget thing, and I completely understand, but it would have been nice to have one small cameo of Hachi. But again, CGI is expensive. They were already pouring so much, and they were still trying to get stuff fleshed out in Season 1. Season 2, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I have a few nitpicks, obviously, but honestly, I couldn't stop smiling. When Season 2 dropped, I binge-watched the entire thing over a few days. when I had time to sit down, and I could not stop smiling. Smoker was great. Wapple, for some odd reason, Wapple was one of my favorite live action versions, and you can tell in the second season they got a lot more comfortable fleshing stuff out, like all the goofiness, the goofy costumes, and just moments in the series. Wapple, by far, because Smoker was great. Spoiler alert, you got a cameo from Dragon. They did that scene perfectly. But Wapple really caught my attention, and I'm not entirely sure why. I do know I like the live action version of King Wapple than I do the animated version, and just because he was so well done. The attitude was there, the entitlement was there, the overall personality of the character was there, and I'm just like, I could not stop thinking. Wapple's one of the characters I could not stop thinking about after I got done watching it. Mr. 3, too, was, holy cow, they captured the creepiness of Mr. 3, and it was spot on. I don't remember the scene in the animated version where Sanji picks up the phone or the little radio from the snail spawner and speaks to Crocodile, calling himself Mr. Prince. I did not remember that in the live action, but in the animated, but they had that in the live action. And then, spoiler alert, you got to see a cameo of Crocodile, which perfectly done. His big hook does not look goofy. I wasn't too crazy about King Wapple's army, the regurgitation, if you will, or mutation. They look just kind of silly. It was okay, but again, not my favorite. Give me 1 second here. Sorry, I had to clear my throat. I've been dealing with bronchitis and catching the tail end of that. So, really gross stuff, but thankfully it's just about gone. Where was I? Oh, yes. So the regurgitation of King Wapple's army, I was not particularly a fan of. I think they just kind of threw something together. You did not have the scene, and like in the animated version, where King Wapple eats his 2 right-hand men. You didn't have that in this version, in the live-action version. I thought Chopper was done really well. Dr. Kureha, very good. Dr. Hemlock, very good. I thought that entire expression, like I said, I could not stop smiling throughout season 2. What else? Zoro did the Big Brother thing with Chopper, and it was really cute. So again, spoiler, towards the end, they do the cherry blossom tree as Going Mary's like sailing away. They turn like that main mountain hill thing and make it look like a cherry blossom, just like in the animated version. And you have Chopper crying in the live action one, and you have Zoro just kind of pick him up, and the graphics, he looks like he's actually picking something up, and it's done really well, and it was really sweet, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So I like Commander Smoker. I know some people were kind of complaining about him when they did his cameo towards the end of season 1. I thought he was done really well, and from what I've seen of a few other review videos, people were kind of worried that they weren't going to do Commander Smoker correctly, because he's constantly moving around in like a thing of smoke, and they actually gave him his 2 cigars, and he's like strapped on his right arm with cigars, which I thought was cool. Or no, it's his left arm. Yes, left. Anyway, so he was done really well. I like Tashiki. They did the sword scene. I've actually seen a video to where the actor for Zoro wanted to do all of his own stunts, and according to, because I know there's some videos that sensationalize facts and whatever, but according to one video, take it with a grain of salt, initially the production team wanted to cut that black sword scene where Zoro uses his arm, and whether or not the sword like accepts him by not cutting off his arm. So that scene in the live action is in there. It's done really well, and I really liked it. But there's talk of how originally the production team wanted to cut it, and that would have been such a mistake. And I'm so glad. If that's true, I'm so glad they decided to keep that in there because well done. Let's talk about Vivi Nefertiti because when the actress was cast, and forgive me, I don't know the actress's name. When the actress was cast, a lot of people went, "Oh, this is DEI," and it's like, no, you guys are legit stupid because if you guys were paying attention to Oda and what countries the Straw Hat crew members would be from, or just a lot of the characters in general, Vivi Nefertiti was inspired by the Middle East, Egypt, so it was a mix. And so I genuinely liked her character. And at first I was like, okay, I'm going to give this a chance. And a lot of people said it was DEI based off of the skin color because the animated one, Vivi is portrayed as a light-skinned character when, if you guys look at the history of anime, a lot of characters just in anime in general are portrayed as light skin or pale skin, and that's inspired ties back to the traditional art done in Japan, done so many years ago. And I forget why in the traditional art of like the samurai, the daily life of the Japanese people, I forget why they originally painted everyone in pale skin. I think it was like so they popped out more. I forget. I used to know, but that was carried through to anime, and that's why a lot of ethnic characters, quote unquote, are drawn with light skin. So Vivi Nefertiti is one of these characters. So I thought the fuss about her being darker skin was just absolutely stupid, and people were not paying attention to what Oda was doing. So anyway, carrying on from that, I liked the actress. I thought she did a really good Vivi, and then it really sealed the deal when they showed King Cobra at the Reverie. Oh my gosh, it's like that dude walked out of the manga books. He was perfect, and I'm like, I don't know, because King Cobra in the animated version was portraying more darker skin, more of that ethnic look, Middle Eastern Egyptian look. So when they presented him in the live action, I'm just like, I don't know what the fuss is with Vivi Nefertiti, because this having King Cobra portrayed the way that they are seals the deal for me completely. I thought it's really well done. I will say the one complaint I have with the live action, and there's been talk about this because this goes for to season 1 and season 2, is that the characters that were supposed to survive are like dead. You saw that with what is that butler's name? Kaya. Kaya's butler killed by Captain Kuro of the Black Cat Pirates. He stays dead in the live action. I did look this up because I was kind of curious. He's like dead. So I'm like, oh, that's different. And then they kind of did the same thing with, sorry, spoiler alert if you haven't seen it, I'm sorry. Igaram is dead. And I'm like, no, oh my gosh, no. I did like the portrayal of Igaram. And I know some people complained, oh, he's DI. Shut up. So something with Oda when he was looking for actors and actresses is whether or not they captured the spirit of the character. They had something of the character within them. A perfect example of this is, I forget what his name is, one of the red-haired pirates, Shank's crew, the guy who has the goggles, overly big, and is constantly carrying around a chunk of meat, in the animated version was normally portrayed white and really, really fat. In the live action, he's portrayed by a black guy. I didn't care, and I knew that they were kind of race swapping some characters and whatnot, but I could recognize the character. I instantly picked out the character, and it wasn't just the costume. It was the attitude. It was the way that I spoke. So I'm like, oh, I know who that is. I know there's kind of like a complaint with the season 1 where they, I think it was called like the Boshi brothers or whatnot of the Black Cat's crew, where I forget their names. I'm sorry. The green-haired skinny one in the live action was portrayed as a woman, and I can't remember in the live action if you see Django. It's been a while since I've seen the first episodes. Let me actually, I'm going to use my phone real quick here too, because I don't think Django was in season 1 live action. Because I would remember Django. I think there's like a wanted poster. Yeah, let's see. Oh, yeah, he appears, and it looks like they kind of race swapped him too. I don't know why he was kept out of the live action, because I was actually looking for him in the season 1. So yeah, the fact that I didn't remember him, it's like, yeah, I don't think he was in there. Anyway, so going back to season 2 and the overall thing, they are race swapping some characters, but if Oda feels that they have the spirit of the character or something within them of the character that they're being casted for, I don't see an issue with it. I am not for, in general, a black guy portraying a white guy, vice versa. I do know, I'm going to use this as an example, where they purposely destroy the character for DI, my representation. For example, the Harry Potter show where Professor Snape is being played by a black actor, and honestly, there was no need for that because of the descriptions in the book of Severus Snape being, his skin being like that of sour milk. I haven't read the books. My husband has. But I've watched reviews, clips, read articles, and things like that. So that's a perfect example of like, no, they're doing stuff on purpose to destroy the character. There's no need. Anyway, so that's a whole other topic. Moving on. So I thoroughly enjoyed One Piece, the season 2 live action. I actually enjoyed it more than the first season. First season, you're kind of fleshing stuff out. You're seeing what you can get away with. Because One Piece, on one hand, it is goofy. I will say the one thing I was kind of disappointed with in season 1 is they didn't do the part where Luffy gets a hold of multiple, I guess you could say, dentures. Is that the proper way to put it? Where he gets multiple sets of Arlong's teeth because Arlong keeps biting him and regrowing his teeth. And so Luffy starts using these sets of teeth to kind of bite Arlong back. I thought that crap was funny in the animated one. They didn't do that in the live action, but they did do the scene where Luffy does knock Arlong in the teeth and his teeth do grow back. So they did do that. So I'm like, okay, I can live without the freaking Luffy having multiple sets of Arlong's teeth because they showed Arlong growing his teeth back. What's another thing that they did in season 2, which was really well done? I like Colby and Hell Nepo. I like the actor who does Garp. Holy cow, that was such a perfect casting. And then the conversation between Zeph and Garp, that was really well done. I don't remember Garp going to the Bariotti. In the animated one, it's been a while, and I know that they're making changes for the live action to kind of express it and translate it better, if you will. So even if that scene doesn't exist in the animated one, I thought the live action one having a conversation between these two was perfect. So it was overall enjoyable, and like I said, to me, King Wapol was one of the characters in season 2 that stuck out. When it came to the battle of between King Wapol, Luffy, and then Vivi, I thought it was really well done. Seeing King Wapol's mouth just kind of mutate into a big hippopotamus mouth, I kind of wish we got more of a fight scene with Wapol, because the actor who did him it was so spot on, and I actually prefer the live action version of Wapol over the animated version. I actually looked up a clip of the animated version of Wapol for like funsies the other day, and I'm like, no, I can't do animated Wapol anymore. I prefer live action, because to me the live action one is much scarier, and it just, oh my gosh, I can't. A lot of the characters, I'm just like, this is awesome. I also liked what is it, Mr. Five, and not Miss Sunday. She has the Kilo fruit. awesome. They even did like the big candle wax cake scene on Little Garden. Miss Golden Week. So, because I watched the Grand Line review, or as he's also known as Dude in the Room, kind of talk about this. I don't have much memory of Miss Golden Week. From the animated one, I really don't. So I did like the creepy version of her in the live action, but from what the Grand Line review talked about is I guess she had her own dream of freedom, and that's what she used the paints for when the live action did like the creepy wannabe child trope. I thought it was done really well. Her scenes were kind of like, oh, scary, especially when Luffy's trying to fight back against the influence of the paint. So I didn't have an issue with it. But again, though, I don't have much memory of Miss Golden Week from the animated one. And let's talk about the stealer of the show, shall we, which more from the elephant in the room. Nico Robin, perfect actress. Now, you guys remember the kind of controversy because people were having an issue with Russia during the Ukraine war. So when a Russian actress who is a model, well, she's technically a model, when she was casted as Nico Robin, people started to attack her because she was Russian. They started to attack her for her ethnicity. And that was the other thing that kind of like made me mad because, like, okay, first off, Oda even said she'd be Russian, coming from the real life countries, and then two, you're attacking somebody simply because they're from Russia, which is absolute garbage. Anyway, so I thought she was done really well. She, as many people have said, they do not shy away in the live action of how dark Robin can be. If you remember how she was in the animated version before she joined the Straw Hats, she was pretty cold. And she had to be, if you guys remember her backstory. So they even do the sakura petals, they do the animation with her arms, and because she's one of the characters who does require a lot of CGI, extra animation, and I thought they were going to kind of like skimp out on that. Oh, no, sir, they do not. And so she's also another really good character, and a lot of people are singing her praise. And so, but like I said, her, Wapple, Dragon, Smoker, Mr. 3, Tashigi, of course you have Buggy, who season 1, very scary dude. And then season 2, again, he's still himself. Alveda, she didn't really pop out to me in the animated one, but I did hear she busted her ass to go from Alveda pre-Devil Fruit to Alveda post-Devil Fruit. And it's the same actress because apparently there was talk of replacing the actress for Alveda, because of how big the actress was pre-Devil Fruit. So apparently this actress lost several pounds in the span of 3 months, and I'm glad they kept her. And from what I'm seeing, because I do know at least the first name for the actor Sanji, Taz, all the actors are pouring their hearts and souls into their performance, and it shows. And let me talk about Sanji for a second. Let me get a drink here because, like I said, I'm still kind of sick. So Sanji, I'm very glad with how well they have toned down just how much, excuse the phrasing, how much of a horn dog he was in the animated. I like Sanji as a character, I do, but in the animated version, he's just incredibly annoying. Anytime he gets on one of his, shall we say, episodes, the live action, they're making him a lot more endearing, a lot more current, which I'm really, really liking. As someone pointed out, because if you guys are watching the live action season 2, you guys will notice that they're dumping lore. Like, for example, when Sanji is talking with Nami and they're in the Drunken Kingdom castle, and Nami at this point is under the care of Dr. Kureha. Sanji tells Nami the story of his mom and cooking lunches for her, when in the animated version, that doesn't come till way later. I forget when that story's dropped, but I recognize the story. I'm like, oh, this doesn't happen now. But as it's kind of being talked about now, is the production crew is kind of aware that they're not going to get through everything, so they're kind of showing some stuff now. We also got a Brook cameo where he's singing to Laboon, and we technically, I'm trying to remember if we saw Brook in his human form in the animated version during Laboon's backstory, and I believe we did. Or was that during Thriller Bark? I don't quite remember when it happened, the animated version. It's been a while, but I liked Brook's cameo. People were kind of saying that he was race swapped. No, Brook in the animated one was black. He's black coated, the way he was drawn. Stop. I understand there's a lot of DEI crap going on. One Piece is not one of them. Go away. You people who have gotten to such an extreme with that stuff that you guys cannot see nuance anymore. And it's driving me crazy. Go away. Sorry. It really is. People, again, I have made complaints of my own. I have also come out and said, like, hey, you know what? This actually works. Settle down. The spirit of the character's there. Chill out. So not everything can be aesthetically 100% perfect. It is not possible. So anyway, moving on, because I saw some arguments online about Brook. But yes, he's a black character. Just bite me. Anyway, so we got a cameo of him, done really well. And he sung to Laboon. It was really cute. They also talked about a change that they went from the animated to live action when Luffy is trying to get his crew back from Laboon eating them. In the animated version, Luffy punches Laboon and says that he's his rival and stabs something into his snout. And they did change it in the live action to where Luffy is singing Binks's Brew to Laboon. And I do like that change. I honestly, because it's been a while that I've seen the animated, I don't remember how Luffy got his ship back in the animated version, and I watched a review. I think it was the Grand Line review also talked about this particular scene, and I'm like, you know what? I like this change. I don't remember how it originally went down, but I like this change. It's a lot more touching. It means a lot more because of just Brooke singing that song to Laboon before they left. But anyway, so I liked it. I can't emphasize enough that I enjoyed it. I could not stop smiling during season 2. Usopp, people were complaining about Usopp. The character is perfect for Usopp. I like the giants. I can't always remember the name. Brogy. What is the other one? Starts with a D. Brogy, not Drogy. Anyway, I like them on Little Garden. Their fight. Apparently, they swapped the giants. Don't know why, which one that got poisoned by Mr. 3. Anyway, everything I just thought was done, for the most part, really well. There's nitpicks here and there. Understandably, there's probably some budget calls, or hey, we want to put more resources into this versus this. So yeah, of course I'm going to have my nitpicks, and I wanted to see more of this or less of that, but overall I enjoyed it. I haven't enjoyed a piece of media for quite a while, and it was really nice to sit down and go, you know what, I really like this. I want to see more. I'm excited for season 3. And apparently there's already kind of official stuff going on about season 3. Allegedly, they're kind of showing Ace. So that's going to be cool to see Ace and Crocodile and the Alabasta arc. And We also did get to see a cameo of Sabo in the live action season 2 when Dragon is kind of watching the Going Merry sail out of Logtown, and he goes, "Oh, you want to be a pirate? Well, that's fine if that's what you choose." And then you see in the background just like this guy standing there, clearly dressed as Sabo. So again, there's talk of how the production crew is aware they're not going to be able to show or get through everything. So that's what they're kind of dropping later stuff here and there. I want to see how they do Unkov. I really, really do. I feel like it's probably going to be kind of similar to how they did the Queen of Red Hearts in the live action of Alice in Wonderland. So I'm kind of curious how they're going to do it. Oh my gosh. Anyway, so there's that. That's part of the update. I thoroughly enjoyed myself. Oh my gosh, this video's already at a half an hour. You know what? Oh well. There were just I had a lot. I really cannot express enough. It's usually long spurts here and there where I get to actually enjoy good media and not have something blasted in my face or preached at me. So I don't mess about in a lot of the new media because a lot of it's just garbage. So anyway, I am looking forward to seeing the new Super Mario Brothers movie. That looks tight. I'm just I love everything about the trailer so far, especially Baby Bowser. They're kind of throwing some stuff in there. Super Mario Sunshine is where he has that dark, mucky brush. I forget what it's called. I'm looking forward to that. Is there any other type of media that I'm looking forward to right now? I don't think so. I've subscribed to a few new cooking channels. I'm trying to kind of stay away from a lot of stuff. And a big reason for that is this is kind of a big life update, and I'm a little intimidated, I'm not going to lie. I got an offer from an old place of work to come back, not in my old role, but as a leader, a supervisor. So that's going to be interesting because that is a very big role. It's not that I can't do the duties. I've supervised people before. I have run things on my own before. But it's different when you actually have the role, learning to take care of the people in your care. You possibly have people who are put in your care or put under you who have way more experience than you do. I've already been told about some of the people who are going to be under my watch on my shift who apparently have far more experience than I do. So I'm like, oh, that's a little intimidating. So when it comes to like being a supervisor or leader in general, I don't believe that the head, if you will, knows everything. It's impossible. And to act like just because you're the supervisor, you know everything, it's garbage. It's absolute freaking garbage. So it's learning how to take care of people put in your charge that have a lot more experience, and to make sure that you don't undermine them, that you don't brush off their experience. I am of the belief that you can learn from those who are put in your charge, that a leader should be able to still learn from their subordinates because people come from all kinds of different walks of life and what have you. So I'm just waiting for some background check to clear background stuff before I can return, which is fine. Everything else is taken care of. I'm just waiting now for this last piece and to get the go-ahead from my now former current high boss to return to the site. So it's not... Over the past couple jobs I've had, I have been poked at for supervisor in some sort of degree or fashion, and I always went no because I've seen the BS that they've dealt with, and I just didn't want to deal with this stupidity of some of the higher ups in some of these places. And I'm not saying that arrogantly. You guys know how corporations work, is where you get really good managers that either you are a good manager or you have a good manager, and you see just the higher ups do dumb stuff, and your manager or yourself is kind of scratching your head going like, we really have to implement this, but this is not going to help the way that things run at all. If anything, it's going to hinder it and kind of like cause things to regress. Yeah. In the past, I have not accepted these offers or tried to go for it because there's just either stuff that I didn't want to deal with, or as my dad would say, kind of minimize myself or whatnot, either because of insecurities, past mistakes. And in my case, there was other obligations I had at the time, and God is kind of like pulling those away, or has pulled those away from me. So, and kind of like removed me from them, removed them from me. So it's going to definitely be a learning experience for me to be in a supervisor role. And as I said, I'm not going to lie. It's kind of intimidating. It's a lot of trust. It's a lot of responsibility. It's a lot of, hey, you're going to have a lot of eyes look to you as to what to do. And as I said, when you're a supervisor leader, you're not going to have all the answers. And so you can look at how, well, I don't want to use our government. How it should run, for example, is you have people in particular places for a reason. You have someone who's the head of transportation, the head of the treasury. You have someone who's the chair of the FCC. You have the secretary, general health. You have someone who, you have the vice president. So they all have their particular roles. And if things function the way that they should, we should all still be able to learn from each other, even in those roles. You can use like a pirate crew. I mean, heck, we just got done talking about One Piece. You have the ships, I think it's called ship's wing. Or is there a more traditional term, carpenter, that helps fixes the ship? You have the captain. You have the boatswain, which instills discipline. You have the helmsman, which steers the ship. You have the cannoneers for that fires the cannons. They all have their expertise, and when stuff like hits the fan, everybody works together to keep the ship going during the storm. So, with that being said, this is a new role I'm taking on, and so it's going to pull my attention and mental resources in other directions, which is perfectly fine. There has been some stuff that I've been kind of watching go down here on YouTube that I kind of wanted to open my mouth, and then I thought about it, prayed about it, went, nope, we're going to shut up, only to see like an update on what the situation was. And I'm just like, I'm so glad I kept my mouth shut. There's some, I want to say like dark stuff, that I'm kind of watching go down, and I'm just like, what the hell are you people even doing? The latest thing, I'm not going to specify what it is because I don't want to get involved. I don't want to get in the middle of it, and I'm purposely not commenting on it. But the latest thing where I'm just like, both sides were utterly effing stupid. Just like, what are you guys doing? I want to say it, but I'm not going to. Sorry. Anyway, moving on. So I've just kind of kept my mouth shut, and I'm kind of keeping an eye on it because it's making me question as to whether or not to stay in certain spaces. Even though I don't have a lot of interaction in these spaces, I'm just kind of debating whether or not to completely forgo these spaces, because just like, you guys never change, and the more and more I watch, the darker this stuff gets, and it's going to get a line crossed. Some lines have already been crossed where I'm like sitting here scratching my head going like, y'all. Anyway, so that's kind of like the life update. One Piece, finished the live action. excited for season 3. Accepted a new role at a former job, and this would be the first time I'm returning to a previous place of work, though not with the same company, if that makes sense. And then just kind of watching people who honestly should not be in the same group implode again. And I'm just hoping that this is the last, shall we say, wave of stuff, but we'll see. Anyway, how are you guys doing? What did you guys think of One Piece live action season 2? Did you guys watch it at all, or do you guys even care? What are you guys just kind of up to? So, with that being said, I'm gonna check out for now. I haven't been doing a whole lot of stuff again because I've been dealing with bronchitis. Very, very just nasty stuff. I didn't lose my voice this time, but I have like a last little bit of it that refuses to let go and just go away. Like I said, very gross stuff. Anyway, I'll see you guys in the next one, whenever that is. There's a lot of stuff going on right now in the YouTube sphere. I know YouTube is still broken. A lot of platforms are now broken. One more thing I'm going to touch upon, because I haven't heard an update. I know Discord is trying to do this ID verification thing or whatever, or they were going to. I'm not going to close down my Discord. I haven't had any issues yet, but because of what I post, what I interact with on Discord, how I run my Discord, they actually classified my server, the Great Hall, as a 18 plus, not because there was not safe for work stuff in there. I mean, there's some marriage humor, but because back in, I want to say 2022, was it 2018? I can't quite remember, because when I was live streaming, I kicked all the minors out because I refused to have any minors on my live stream because we were talking about politics and certain things like that. And I'm not these kids' parents, so I was like, I don't want to talk politics with a 15-year-old, just in case something gets said to them that could get me in trouble. And I'm not talking about sexual, I'm just talking about in general. That where they don't need to be part of that conversation with a almost 30-year-old and other adults. I wasn't comfortable with it, so I kept him off the live stream. And then I started to think, well, if I'm not letting them in the live stream, why am I letting them in the server? Like, there's certain stuff that I want to post. Again, I don't do not safe for work. I don't have any of those freaking weird-ass channels in my Discord. But I do have politics. I have some marriage humor. I have adult stuff. Do have art in there. It's nothing sexual, but again, adult space. I put out a video about this a few years ago, and it's like, that's my adult space. I don't want kids in here. So I kind of made the decision, kicked all the minors out, and it was like maybe a year later that, because Discord was kind of going around classifying certain servers, and I got like a notification, hey, your server is now classified as 18 plus because we see that you stick all your rooms as 18 plus. And I'm sure they look over every Discord server just about has a rule room, and I'm sure they looked over the rules and went, yeah, no, there's no kids in here. So all that to say is I'm not having any issues with my Discord. There's no mistaking it for a children's Discord. I don't target my YouTube stuff at children. Nothing like that. Yeah, my little mascots, Memory and Hollow, but again, they're not advertised to children. So anyway, with that being said, I'm not closing down my Discord. I'm not going anywhere. What's happening with Discord is eventually going to happen to all these platforms. It's eventually going to be a thing. So I'm like, there's no point in going anywhere. It's like when anytime something on YouTube breaks, people try to scatter and go other places. And I used to do that when VidMe was a thing that got shut down, when BitChute was being blown up and that kind of fizzled out because BitChute's just kind of trash, or Rumble. Just that one. I hate to say it, Google has a monopoly on this right now, so I haven't tried to go anywhere else. I've tried to kind of branch out on other platforms, but the other platforms don't necessarily play nice. So it is what it is. I'm not going anywhere with my Discord. It's not getting shut down. I'll put out an announcement if I start having issues or if I start getting locked out of my own stuff. So, but I'm not. So for the time being, everything is fine. With that being said, I'm going to end it here because it is now 45 minutes going, and I'm sure you guys are kind of done hearing me yak. So I'll see you guys in the next one. If you guys run into any issues in Discord, my server, whatever, just send me a DM. Let me know what's going on, and I'll see if I can do something about it. If not, it is what it is. So that being said, take care.